Now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to your RBLR Rays podcast. I am Ben, and I'm sitting way too close to my mic, so I'm going to back up and let Zach introduce himself. How's it going, Zach?
It is going very well. It has been a little while since we've recorded, so it's good to see you again. Jeopardy was awesome, super fun. One day I'll be good enough at trivia to get on one of those things, but it sounded like you guys had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. If anybody who's listening right now hasn't checked that out, definitely go over to YouTube immediately. Before you do anything on YouTube, you got to subscribe, or we have a top secret firewall paywall that's going to give your computer a virus. So even if you're listening right now, better subscribe, all that stuff. It helps protect your internet safety, allegedly. So go ahead and do that.
Allegedly. Yeah. We're going to have some fun stuff in the future happening on YouTube. So be sure to be there for that.
Yes. And speaking of protecting your computer, you want to protect yourself. Tyler Glasnow maybe could have wrapped himself in bubble wrap for the entirety of spring training, but injuries are going to happen. It is what it is. The oblique, reared its ugly head again, and Glasnow is officially out 6 to 8 weeks with an oblique strain, grade 2, I believe. So not the worst outcome, but you don't really want to see him out after he just got back. So
yeah, it's definitely not ideal. You would have loved for him to kind of, he got some good, game action at the end of last season. You would have really liked to have him have that full off-season regimen to really build up through spring training and kind of come back normally. So it's definitely not ideal to have him out for any length of time, and really not ideal for him to be out to start the season. But in the same way, I suspect there would have been a phantom IL stint for him at some point this year anyway. So it's kind of like whatever. I would much rather have him at the end of the year than now. So I'm okay with him missing some time at the beginning of the year. I think, we have the depth to cover the loss. My main concern is that they do not rush him back, which I don't think they will. There's no reason to. But the only way this is bad is if this lingers, if you don't get this healed. So to me, I don't care if he doesn't pitch for into mid-April. I don't care. I would rather them take their time and make sure that this is not a lingering thing than to for him to get back in the game. And I know he wants to get back. He had a really good quote about, basically saying, I know that moping about it's not going to help. I'm just going to attack the rehab. And that's a great mindset to have for him for sure. So I know, and he attacked his rehab previously. He's going to continue to do that. So it's disappointing, but I think this team is equipped to handle it. And I'm glad that we're not dealing with this at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, as long as it doesn't linger, it's fine, really. Projections had him in the 150 to 160 innings pitched range by the end of the year, which I thought was a little high to begin with. So I still think he's going to be in the 120 to 140 range, which is totally fine. Kevin Cash, his comments about it were almost kind of joking, yeah, and I won't have to worry about getting yelled at for taking him out in the fifth inning. So he's really not that concerned. Obviously it's not what you want, but it ultimately doesn't really change much of what Glasnow was going to do this season in terms of workload anyways. The innings are just going to get, backloaded. The workload management here is front loaded. It's fine. He'll be back fine. He's such a gamer. He's going to take everything seriously. I on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned I am about Glasnow and his health this season, I'm at a 2 or a 3, honestly. It feels weird saying it because he's genuinely out 6 to 8 weeks. He's not doing anything, for almost 2 months, but I'm not concerned long-term at all.
No, and it's not something where it's it's not his shoulder, it's not knees or something like that. It's an oblique, which obviously isn't great. And the main concern with the oblique is it nagging throughout the season. We've seen that happen to guys where they rush, and it happens a lot to position players where they just want to get back on the field, and so then they re-aggravate it again, and it just kind of lingers and goes on throughout the season. We've seen that plenty of times, and I think that this staff was already going to be treating him with kid gloves anyway, so there's no chance of that happening to him. So I completely agree. My worry is like at a 1.5. Like I'm really not that worried about it. And again, I think that this is, we've talked about it before. The pitching depth of this team is equipped to handle an absence of this, length. Like when you look at the way they constructed the roster, it's like they knew this was going to happen at some point. When you look at the pitchers that we've assembled on the roster right now, they're all very high quality. Almost not all, but a lot of them have injury histories. So you sort of have to be kind of, naive to not prepare for some sort of absence on some level. And you have guys who can handle that, whether it's, Chirinos, whether it's Patino stepping up, whether it's, Flemdog, or whether, Taj Bradley, who knows? He might get some innings. I don't think probably this early, but like, who knows? Maybe he really kills it. He had a good first start. So, I mean, if he really just continues to kill it, maybe they'll give him a shot. But I think that this team is equipped to handle his absence. I'm not concerned about Glasnow. I'm also not concerned about, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on the win-loss record, missing him for that period of time. I think if you missed him for a season, the guys that were filling in, they get taxed over a longer period of time. It's kind of what we saw last year. And so I think this is not a huge deal. And in some ways, I'm excited to see how the guys who are going to have to step up. Is this the opportunity Patino needs to take the next step as a starting pitcher? Do we see a Yannick Chirinos resurgence? I think there's exciting storylines to come from this, even though it's not what we want.
Yeah, definitely. This isn't the big spring training headline I wish we had this week. There are some other things that I'm excited to talk about, but there's depth. There's no need to try to answer all the questions right now. These things will sort themselves out over the next, 3-4 weeks. And we have the depth to cover it. So I'm just excited to see who kind of emerges in that fifth starter, maybe bulk kind of role that's going to, round out the back of the rotation. Now everybody else, gets moved up a spot essentially. Because Glasnow was absolutely going to be probably number 2, I'd say. I think they would give McClanahan the opening day start just because of, what he has done over the past couple of years. Nothing against Glasnow. It's really just kind of like a thank you for your service type thing to McClanahan. So yeah, no major concerns, but I'm really excited to get into some of the other stuff that happened this week because we finally get spring training baseball. Lots of guys already making a case for themselves at the margins of the roster, which is what you love to see. You never want to just kind of go with a guy just because he's the only one that's not sucking out there. But we've got multiple players at multiple positions, and there are only a few positions on the roster that really need sorting out. Mm-hmm. But everybody has come out firing, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of the first 2 games were a little bit there was not a whole lot of offense, and then just kind of exploded ever since then. Everybody's getting in on the act. It's been fun to watch. I think there were we've had at least 2 games where we scored over 10 runs so far. That's just fun. I mean, yeah, it's spring training and the results don't matter, but it's still fun to watch. It's still fun to watch Wander hit a home run. I will never not want to watch Wander Franco hit a ball over the fence. I will always enjoy that. And Randy, the same thing. So it's, to see, I think one of the games, Wander, Randy, and Yandy all hit a home run. Come on, that's awesome. That's just fun. And I think that, I miss baseball very much when it's not around. And I've just been enjoying sort of watching baseball, appreciating that the game is back. And I'm super excited to see some of these guys who, that there are, even though like you say, most of the roster is set, there are spots open. And none of these guys that were brought in are guys who don't want it. Everybody here wants it and wants to get back up. You got guys like Robertson who have big league experience and 100% want to be back in the show. So I think it's just going to be fun. Have enjoyed it so far and just can't wait to see how the battles shape out.
Yeah, definitely. I know we're going to kind of talk about some roster power rankings and how all those battles are turning out, but we do have some listener questions I want to jump into first here. Only 2 of them, but they kind of lend to what we're going to talk about. So the first one here, not so much. It's more just about a Kyle Crick question, which I'm really excited about Kyle Crick today. We're recording on Friday, March 3rd. He brought in a cutter. It's amazing. I was like, wow, he throws a sinker and a slider that are so different. He needs a cutter somewhere in the middle, and he threw a cutter today for the first time in his career. So really excited about that. But the question here kind of is from Twitter user at R. Bunikowitz. It's Remy Berkinowitz. I don't know. I'm doing my best here. But anyways, he said, I liked Crick's velocity on his cutter and changeup, but his slider and sinker seemed underwhelming today. It's probably just because it's spring training. He's come back from injury, but he's curious to hear our thoughts on Kyle Crick. I know he's had that's his second outing, I believe. Maybe his first. I'm not 100% sure.
I think it was his first. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I thought it was his first outing, but I don't know. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, we got pitch data today, so I feel like it's pretty straightforward. He threw 2 sliders. That's you're not gonna have your first 2 pitches of anything in spring training are usually not gonna be your best. So not concerned about the velo. I'm just excited to see the cutter because that's what he needed, and he's starting to throw it. So let's just keep rolling with it. The sinker and slider, we know what we're gonna get from him there. They're very good pitches. He just didn't really have anything to kind of blend them before, and now he does. So we'll see. But yeah, any thoughts on Kyle Crick so far?
Yeah, I think if any concern about the other pitches, I generally in spring training, I think a lot of guys are, if they have something they're working on, it's their focus. So the other parts of their game are probably not going to be up to snuff because this is a time to work on things. So I mean, I think it's pretty obvious he wanted to workshop that cutter, and I think I'm excited to see how that develops. And I think that that's exactly what we saw is him workshopping something, and the fact that he could come out and workshop it, and it's already we're seeing the dividends of it. I'm excited to see where it goes. I don't know what his I'm not sure what his ceiling is as a player, but I just think it's fun to see these guys who take their arsenal and they see the holes in it and how they're working out how to fix those holes and blend things together. I just think it's cool to watch that because that's a very interesting process that you get to see now. And because so many Rays pitchers come with such interesting arsenals, and the Rays pitching coaches are always trying to work with them to improve those arsenals. I just think it's a fun process, and you kind of get to see it play out in live in HD here as we're watching. Well, not HD, whatever 720 or 480 that we're getting on a lot of these spring training outings, but being able to see that happen is just a fun thing to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to incriminate myself here, but I'm not following along on valleysports.com.biz or whatever for $20 a month. I've got my streams that work for me. So, and those are not in HD. They're I'm in negative 1780p or something like that. It's not good, but it's fine. It's fine. I like the radio. I like the StatCast stuff. I feel like it's a nice picture that it paints for us. So the next question we have here kind of goes into what we're going to be talking about today, but I kind of just wanted to get your thoughts right off the bat for this one. So it's from @VibeBaby17 on Twitter. He said, how many roster spots are available for Aranda, Josh Lowe, Luke Raley, and Ben Gamel? And then who do you think gets the spot or those available spots? So out of those 4 guys, how many spots do you think are available for them, and who gets them? Which I know we're going to go more in depth here in a second.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's maybe 2, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think there's really 1 outfield spot available and 1 infield spot available. Now, I think it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I think you can have 2 outfielders, or I don't think, obviously not 2 infielders in this equation, but I think that there's 2 spots available. I think you have to see if Aranda's bat is as real as it looks. At some point, I want to see the bat, and I want to see, I also want to see, is he willing to put in the work on defense? Because I don't know, to me, it's an issue if one of the, if you list the top 5 things about Jonathan Aranda, the fact that one of them is that he is perhaps the worst defender in Major League Baseball, that being one of the things is not ideal. And to me, as a competitor, I have to imagine that that's not something he's he's not deaf. I'm sure he hears these things and is aware, and I'm sure the coaches, whether however delicately or indelicately they're putting it to him, are saying, hey man, this is a problem. And I don't think it's impossible that he improves on defense. We've seen him in the limited action so far in spring training. He's already improving. It doesn't and again, he doesn't need to be a Gold Glover. If he just plays league average or even below league average, slightly below league average defense, the bat is for everything I can tell, it looks real to me. And I think that it's too good for him to not be on the roster. And it would be really disappointing if his defense is the reason that we don't see him reach his full potential. I don't think it will. I don't think the Rays will let that happen. I don't think he's going to let that happen. I think he's going to do the work needed. I think he'll find his way onto the roster. In the outfield, it's tough because I think Ben Gamel, I think he's a guy that will appear on the roster throughout the season. I don't think he's going to break camp unless there's an injury. I do think like it's tricky looking at Rayleigh and Lowe. I think Rayleigh has a really good chance to break camp with the team based on how he's playing. Not that Josh Lowe's not playing well, but I think that Rayleigh is clearly here to play. And if he continues to play at the level that he's playing, I think that they will say, Josh, you can go cook in Durham. Like, I don't like, is Rayleigh really going to be like, for what Luke Rayleigh is, I don't know that he's really going to develop too much more in Durham necessarily. If he's going to develop, which I think he could still develop, but it's going to be at a major league level. It's not going to be improved by being in Durham. I think where Josh Lowe maybe has a little bit of time left, he could still improve in Durham, especially when you look at his, how he handles velocity. I think that's something he could still work on potentially in Durham, although the velocity is going to be better at the major leagues. So I think Rayleigh has a really good chance to break camp with the team. It's a lot of it is going to be up to Josh Lowe. Is he going to match the level of how Rayleigh is playing? I think if they're both playing at a similar intensity and level at the end of spring training, I think there's a decent chance that Lowe gets the spot over Rayleigh. But at the moment, I would give the spot to Rayleigh because I think he's shown that he really wants it and has really been impressive so far. So that's at this very moment, as of March 3rd, that's my idea.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Like logistically, it makes sense with Rayleigh too. He doesn't have options. So like if he doesn't make the opening day roster, he's not making it through waivers. Like he's made some really significant strides this offseason. It's already starting to show. Shortened up his swing, his bat path. Still strong as heck, so he's still got that power. He doesn't need the big leg kick for all that. Yeah, I think he makes the opening day roster just because of the options and what we've seen from him so far. Josh Lowe, I personally like him just because I wrote about him and I really like his improvements. Jonathan Aranda, love the bat. It's a small sample size, but he's got like some of the best bat speed in the majors for sure. It doesn't show because he's not like using it to just hit missiles everywhere. He's using it to intentionally, like slap a double the other way or hit a single over the second baseman's head. Like he's a very like calculated guy. Kind of saw that today against the Blue Jays, actually. Like very good bat control. Like he hits the ball where he wants to, when he wants to. Like even if it's an out, like it's he meant to pull a ground ball so he can advance a runner, like or hit it through a hole. So he's very smart, very good with the bat, a very good barrel control. I just prefer Josh Lowe a bit more, but I don't think Ben Gamel touches the roster. Honestly, I don't think he would accept a minor league assignment. Unless there's like an injury and they're like, hey, if you sit in Durham for a month, like we can almost guarantee you'll be up at some point. He's not that good. Like he's really like pound for pound, like Luke Rayleigh is a better player than him. I don't think he's really going to do anything. I mean, it's nice to have like a good depth signing, kind of like with Robertson and Culberson, but these are guys that it's like they're there until Curtis Mead is ready, until Vidal Brujan figures something out. So it's nice to have these high floor veterans, I guess. But for me right now, I'd go Rayleigh and Josh Lowe. But I know we're literally about to like get into that, so I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think that these are, again, I've said this before, we have good problems to have. This is not like we are not, well, I guess we'll put him up there because he can hit it over the fence occasionally. Like these are players that are like, would make a lot of, I think any of those four would have a really good shot at cracking a lot of opening day rosters in this league. I think the fact that we have four good options as like the last two men on our roster is a very good problem to have. And just kind of, it just kind of more evidence of the depth that this organization has and the way that they have cultivated their talent over the years and the way they identify talent as well. Is just something that's really impressive. And I'm excited to see it kind of, come to fruition this year.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's quality depth. It's young. It's talented. It's all there. These were two really good questions though, and we'll be taking these every week. So, don't forget to send us your comments, questions, concerns, thoughts on social media. We are at RBLR Sports. We've got like our RBLR Rays account up and running on Twitter now, which is really cool. So make sure you follow that one. But yeah, just, share us, subscribe, like all that stuff, and send in those questions. I'm on Twitter too much these days. So I know I've cut back a lot, but I don't know. I've been homesick lately. So I'm kind of just like, scrolling and just sitting on there and like interacting with everything that comes my way. I don't know if that's good, but I'm going to keep doing it because I am kind of bored sometimes, but it's fun. It's fine. So yeah, that was our quick little plug there. So we'll get into what are some spring training standouts for you so far? I know we just kind of talked a little bit about some position player battles, but is there anything that stood out to you that you've really liked so far?
I think my favorite thing that I've seen so far in straight training was Zach Eflin's first start. It was just, he looked really good. Like some of those pitches were they were crisp. They were well located. I was like, this guy really has it. And I didn't watch him that much when he was in Philadelphia. I watched a couple highlights when we signed him. And like he is as advertised. And I'm like, I would like to see more, please. Like that's basically what I was left with after he pitched. I think he's gonna be to have a guy like that being at the bottom of your rotation is insane. I think it's really underrated how good the whole rotation is. I think the guys at the top, Tyler and Shane, get a lot of shine, but like I think this rotation is so deep, and seeing a guy like him come out and be that sharp this early, I'm just excited by that.
Yeah, he was pretty sharp. He's got like, four, I guess five. I mean, he's got five like pitches, but like four are very like distinct shapes, I'd say. I feel like the changeup is something that could use some adjusting, either in like some kind of velo or shape adjustment, but that's, beside the point. I'm not going to get into that, but no, he looked really sharp. He would be a three, maybe. Yeah, I'd say maybe like a three, maybe a four starter on most rosters. And he's kind of near the back of the rotation here, which is, I mean, that's not a thing against him. It's just, we're so deep, but no, he's going to be great. I'm really excited to see what they end up doing. I didn't notice any like concrete adjustments just yet. I think they're kind of just letting him get his feet wet right now, which is totally fine. It's expected. I know Hayden, when we had him on for an interview, we said like the Rays aren't going to touch you for a little while. Like they'll let you do your thing. So it makes sense, but I am excited to see kind of where he starts to go over these next couple of weeks and what he's prioritizing and stuff. So didn't really show he kept his cards close to his chest so far, but that's fine. Just get your work in, get your feet wet, and I'm excited for his next start.
Yeah, and I think it's good to see that. It's just good to see guys that are coming to camp ready. I think not that nobody's coming to camp unprepared, but like seeing guys that are coming out there that you can tell that this is not the first time they've thrown this offseason. Like they've been putting in work, they're ready, they're excited. He seems, even in just like the interviews that he gave, talking about being with the Rays, just seems like really positive guy. Seems like a great clubhouse guy too. I just think he's a really good addition to this team, and having him being a part of this rotation is something that I'm excited to see. I was a little bit, where we were sitting in the offseason before we had signed him, I was still happy with the rotation where it was, but signing him, I think, really brings this rotation together really strongly.
Yeah, definitely. It's you can't go wrong when you're signing, a quality pitcher to the largest free agent contract in franchise history. Like this was a great signing. So I'm excited about it. What else did you like so far in this first week of spring training games here? Or disliked? Just anything really?
I would say one of the other things that has really stood out to me so far is just, we've talked about Luke Raley a lot, but I think just that the power has been there, because we talked about the shortening of the swing, and still seeing that power there has been a good thing to see. I mean, again, the competition is not like amazing all the time, but the fact that it's still there is encouraging, because it's clear that he's made adjustments to his swing, but that he's not completely sacrificed that power. I think that bodes really well for him as far as his ability to make the roster, because being able to make an adjustment like that and keep what makes you valuable in like what's your calling card, I think is something that bodes really well for him as a player, and is something that I think I was looking forward to see, because we kind of had seen what we had saw from Luke Raley last year, and I'm like, is he going to make an adjustment to try to go to the next level here, or is he kind of is what he is? And the fact that he's been willing to make an adjustment to his stance and to his swing path, and still keep what makes him good, is a really good sign for me. And beyond like the home, I mean, hitting the home runs is cool, but seeing the power, even if they weren't going over the fence, seeing the power staying there with the swing adjustments is something that I was excited to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this whole thing with Luke Raley, he's someone I had in my notes too. Like first thing on there, I just have Nuke Reiki, a couple home runs. I love what he's been doing, but this kind of started like back in November, like when the Rays kind of first started their roster churning. Like I mean, it wasn't like a lot of turnover, but they had a lot of decisions to make with guys, being protected from the Rule 5 draft. Who's going to be on the 40 man? Who's worth it? Who's just a filler piece that we're going to, let slip away or anything like that? Who's going to get traded? He's survived a lot of roster turnover, it was a little like kind of funny, kind of surprising at first, but it's like, okay, well, if he's made it this far, the Rays like really value him and they really value the work he's put in the offseason. The results are showing already. He pulled a lefty on lefty home run in his first game. He went opposite field in Disney, which I know we had some wind, and it was the spring training games have been a little hot and humid, a little windy so far, as we saw today. But like he's putting the ball in play. He's barreling the baseball. Like that's the goal there. You always want to put the good part of the bat on the baseball. He's one of the few players on the team that had a barrel rate over 10% last year in his limited sample. Like we had like Brandon Lau, huge gap, and then like I think Randy was like at like maybe like 9 or 10%, which is not good at all. But then Luke Raley in a small sample was like 12, 13%, somewhere in there. So that's pretty solid. That's a good barrel rate. Yeah, I mean, he just hits the ball hard from the left-handed spot, plays all three outfield spots. I don't want to see him playing center, but if he has to at some point, he could do it. He's actually like one of the faster players on the team. He was like 94th percentile sprint speed last year. Runs like a baby giraffe in the best possible way. And he can handle first. Like he's got like a real first baseman's glove. He's not like Jonathan Aranda over there. He's not, just some guy that they're like, yeah, let's experiment at first base. Like, no, he's a first baseman and a corner outfielder. He plays both pretty well, and decent arm too. Not a bad arm. So really like what I've seen from Nuke Reiki so far.
Yeah. And I think that, the fact that, like you said, just the fact that the Rays have such belief in him, the Rays don't, generally the Rays are pretty, if they're going to give a guy an extended chance, they really see something there. Like they have it's not like they didn't have people that they could have given those spots to that would have also been valuable, but they chose to give it to him. So I'm excited to see what he kind of makes of it. One player that I am waiting to see more from, I don't want to say negative because it's so early. I am waiting for Jose Siri I'm really hoping for kind of a breakout year from Jose Siri this year. He hasn't played a whole bunch yet in spring training, hasn't done a whole lot yet. I'm really hoping for another year in the Rays system and another year, in the Trop, that he can, really kind of break out as a hitter. I mean, the defense is there. I mean, no question. The way he makes very difficult plays look routine is awesome. I really would like to see a breakout for him. Haven't seen much yet, but I'm hoping to see that. I'm hoping to see more from him soon in spring training.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked what he did today. He, roped a like 110-mile-an-hour double. I'm trying to look up the speed right now.
That is true.
Stole a base, made a really nice catch in the outfield. I know he had like a stomach bug or something like the first couple days of spring training. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was gonna put it on the injury thing I was gonna do later, but like it was really just like 2 days. He just had to just chill out for a little bit. But no, I liked what he did in the Dominican Winter League. Looked really solid out there. I know he kind of had like a little injury thing there. He's totally fine now. He's 100% ready to go. Yeah, he's got a little bit of power in his bat. I think the Rays might be able to tap into that. Who knows? He's still going to swing and miss quite a lot. He's still going to strike out a lot. He probably won't be a league average hitter. Maybe he'll be like in the 90, 95 WRC plus range, but that's still like a 4 or a 5 win FWAR player. Like that's borderline all-star because his defense is probably the best in the league out of all the center fielders that are not an aging Kevin Kiermaier. So he's got the center field spot on lock. He's not going anywhere. Probably. I mean, it's hard to say with the Rays for sure, but like he's probably as close to a lock as they can get, and I'm just excited to see him get plenty of reps and stay healthy out there.
Yeah, I think the thing that is it's sort of like, it's almost funny because when you watch him play center field, if you don't understand like the mechanics of center field, you would just kind of be like, well, he doesn't really seem that impressive. He just kind of runs over to the ball and catches it every time, except for the fact that only maybe one other dude is running over to that ball, and he's making it look like routine. When you look at the way how he gets jumps on balls, his speed, his sort of the way his instincts in center field are just like immaculate. He has the potential to really be something special. And I don't know. I mean, I would love to get a year like Kevin Kiermaier had, like 1 or 2 years where he was like above average offensively. I think if he has a year where he's like, 110 OPS plus, something like that, 120 OPS plus, he could be like a 6 or 7 WAR guy, because even if he's like moderately above average, the defense is so excellent that I think he has a chance to have a really high value year. I'm expecting the Gold Gloves to start coming. That's a hot take for this season. I think Jose Siri is going to have gold on his glove by the end of the year.
That would be amazing. I think he deserves it. It seems like it's kind of a popularity contest, but he's got that. He's got that like I don't know, that kind of like that spark where he's fun to watch. Like
he's got some swagger.
He does it like a very casual and cool, way he carries himself out there. The catch he had today though is just like nobody else is making that catch probably. Like it was a ball that he had to start in for, so he broke forward, and then the wind carried it literally to the wall, and he readjusted and he caught it over his shoulder like it was nothing. Nobody else is even coming close. They're playing that off the wall. Like they're going to give up as soon as that ball gets pushed from its initial spot. So incredible. Base running is incredible too. He's gonna have fun with these rule changes, I think.
Oh yeah.
Even just going like first to third, second to home on on a base hit or like a double or something, like he's going to take those extra 90 feet more often than not. Just electric on the bases.
That's one thing that's kind of hasn't been talked about a lot. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't think that's something that hasn't been talked about much with these rule changes. I'm curious to see how many outfielders' arms are going to get tested this year, because I think there's going to be opportunities for players who have that elite speed, the Byron Buxtons of the world, Siri, Kiermaier, these guys who have elite speed. When there is, I think outfielders are really going to have to be on their toes, because there's going to be potential to get those extra 90 feet. So I'm curious to see how outfield defense could become even more valuable than it already is, because there will be bases to be taken because of these adjustments. So I'm curious to see how that. And I think we have 2 guys on this team who are like prime, maybe I would say 3, like between Margot and Randy and Siri. I think all 3 of those guys are going to take full advantage of that. And I think they probably will get thrown out occasionally, but I think they're also going to steal a lot of bases and a lot of extra runs that way. So I'm excited to see that.
That's true. And I think the Rays got most of their getting thrown out kind of out of the way last year. I really think they were kind of using that, they're always going to be aggressive. That's just who they are. But I think it was also kind of like a one eye on the future sort of thing where, now you have film that you can, and like actual data where you can compare, like, would this have been an out in the new rule changes, stuff like that. Yeah. Other teams weren't really being that aggressive, and maybe they scored a couple more runs because of it. But I think it's the information they were able to collect last year in a live game setting is going to end up being really valuable with these rule changes. And just going back to like testing runners, I'm pretty sure Jose Siri threw out a runner at home today. I'm kind of in the middle of getting a bunch of medication, so I might have missed it, or it might have been somebody else who threw someone out, or he almost threw someone out at home. But he's got a cannon out there too. Like he is a complete player. Like he's going to run the ball down. He's going to throw it well. Like he does everything well. So
Full disclosure, I was at work today during the game, and I feel like I really missed out. Like I need to go back and watch this game. I feel like I need to go back and watch this because I was at work the entire time and I did not see any of it. And I'm like, wow, I need to go back and watch this game. Apparently, a lot of really cool stuff happened with players that I really like. So I'm gonna go. I have homework apparently after this podcast is over.
Yeah, I got like 80% of it in. I've been doing a lot lately. So the data was really good too, though. A lot of good stuff on Baseball Savant here. Yeah, the game tomorrow though is going to be pretty cool. That one I think we're going to get data for because it's it's in Tampa against the Yankees, and Taj Bradley's going to start. So I'm excited about that. He's another guy that like I wanted to highlight in my notes, but I'm just kind of going to do it now because I'm talking about him now. He looked pretty sharp. I know it was a quick inning, really small sample size against the Red Sox, but he knows what he's good at and he knows how to execute it. So I'm excited to see him kind of continue in that mold and develop that splitter a little bit, because I think that's going to be the pitch that kind of makes me stop being a little skeptical about him.
Yeah, and I think he has, I think there was a little bit of too high expectations because of how well he was pitching, especially at the beginning of last year. Like, I think he almost got out in front of his skis a little bit. I think, and I think the Rays were like willing to say, well, let's see what you can do, kid. And let's put you out there and see what you got. And he got over his skis a little bit, but obviously I think it's good to see that he's not someone who's going to, take that lying down. I think he's making the adjustments to shore up the areas that were, some of the fact, when you become well known and when you are on all the prospect boards, the nature of that is people are going to be watching you and paying attention. So they're also going to see your weaknesses. So, I think he kind of had a target put on him later in the season because of how highly he was touted. Like teams are definitely going to be looking at him, and they were definitely going to be looking at, how do we get around him? How do we score off of him? Because obviously, and not beyond just from a development perspective, they're trying to win those games, those, like, especially in the playoffs, like they're trying to win those games, so they're going to take advantage when they can. So I'm not too worried about him, even though he had a rough end of the season. I think he's going to make those adjustments. I think the Rays are going to make those adjustments, and just like you said, I'm really excited to see where his development leads. And I it'd be fun if he like broke camp with the team and got some innings in early when we kind of have the innings to be had. But I think either way, he'll make his way on the roster either at the end of this year or maybe in the middle. But I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, he'll definitely pitch in the majors at some point this year, whether it's a spot start or something goes either really well for him or really wrong for somebody else. Like he'll pitch eventually. Kind of hoping it's just a spot start though. I don't want to get him into Super 2 status too soon. I think he's a little too valuable for that. But he's never, like, until he got to AAA, like he was never really challenged that much aside from like his rookie seasons when he was like just learning how to pitch, like in the Rays system. He was throwing like 70 to 80% fastballs in AA, like, and he's got a 95, 96 mile an hour fastball with like elite carry at the top of the zone. Like, you don't really have to do anything else than that. Like he's generating pop-ups and strikeouts at a crazy rate with a 70% fastball usage as a starter. Like, so you get to AAA, that doesn't really fly super well, and we saw that. But now he's in that Goldilocks zone where it's not too easy, not too hard. It's the appropriate amount of rigor for him to be challenged and develop that cutter. Finish up whatever slider thing he might be doing. I know I mentioned the splitter is kind of something he's got a good feel for. He's going to try to sprinkle that in, but in his game against the Red Sox, he was going fastball top of the zone and it worked. I mean, It's one inning, it's small sample, but like that's his game. He's going to make guys generate poor launch angles, or they're going to miss it entirely because it's a great pitch. So he will need a secondary pitch, a couple of them at least, if he wants to be like a true high-end starter. But his floor is so high because he has well above average command and an excellent fastball. Like that gives you he's got a really good safety net. So I feel like that's a little too much about a 7 pitch performance, but like the data stabilizes really quickly on pitch grade stuff, and he's got excellent stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And we saw it with Glasnow in previous seasons where he was kind of, his 2 pitches were so good it almost didn't matter that he was basically a 2-pitch pitcher. And I think that and eventually, and he just took it to the next level when he added his whatever that pitch whatever he's calling that pitch, slider cutter thing. And I think that Bradley is going to make a similar adjustment and just, he's not like, Glasnow stopped throwing his best pitches. He just learned how to supplement them. And I think Bradley's going to do the same thing. And I think the Rays are really good at that and really good at figuring out, okay, here's what you do well. Don't stop doing that. Because I think you see that with some organizations where they bring a guy in and they say you do these things well, but we want to do this thing with you. And the Rays don't really do that. They say, hey, keep doing that. Also this. And I think that is what, makes the Rays so successful is they don't try to they're not trying to change you. They're trying to maximize what you do well and add on to that. And I think that's, I think there's this perception maybe that, the Rays they get in the Rays lab and they revamp you. It's like, not really. They just acknowledge what you do well, encourage you to continue doing it and optimize that, and also find other things that you could do well to make that better. And I think they're going to do it with Bradley the way they've done it with so many other guys. And his, like you said, the floor is so high, and the ceiling, who knows? I don't even really know what the ceiling is for him, to be honest. I don't know. Is he a top of the rotation guy? I mean, is he a 2 or 3 guy? I don't know yet. I think it could be interesting to see this season if maybe we get a little bit of insight into what his ceiling is on a major league level. It's kind of hard to tell when someone's that young, but it could be interesting to see what could we be getting as a ceiling for him as a starter. Maybe we see a little bit of that this year.
Yeah, I mean, if we see a 4-pitch mix, I think he's a 1-2 starter for sure. If we see a 3-pitch mix where he's going fastball, cutter, splitter, maybe like a 2-3 starter, but his floor is already at a 3.
Yeah.
He's so good. So I'm excited about that. Kind of on the same note there with the pitching and the pitch mix and player optimization, Drew Rasmussen, he got his first spring start today, got roughed up a little bit, which is good for my Springs agenda, but I really like the sprinkling in the sinker 2-seamer thing he started throwing at the end of last year. At the end of 2021, near the end of the 2021 season, Kevin Cash said that Drew Rasmussen has 4 plus pitches, and it was at the time where he was exclusively fastball slider in game, and he was getting decent results with it, but he should not have been getting good results. He was overperforming like crazy. Last year, he added in the cutter, started to get even better results. Still, I think he could have performed better, but the results were still good, so it didn't matter. Now he's a 4-pitch pitcher. He's got 4 distinct pitch shapes. The Blue Jays are a good team, and he wasn't super sharp with his command today, but oh my gosh, he has a 2-3 starter potential right now. He is. I'm not 100% a believer yet because I want to see him do it consistently, but the fact that he can just pick up a pitch and throw it well out of nowhere is amazing. And I'm so excited about that 2-seamer. That is a fantastic addition. I didn't think a changeup would cut it for him. He's not really the type. I think he's more of an operate at high velo guy and do that sort of thing. So the 2-seamer works well, but fastball, 2-seamer, cutter, and slider, he's got a really good tunnel grouping there, everything the spin mirror. I could talk about the data behind all that for hours, but he's going to have a good season. I very, very confident about that.
Oh yeah, I am 100% a Drew Rasmussen truther, so I'm very happy to hear that. That was one of the main reasons I was sad I couldn't watch this game, because I love Drew Rasmussen. I think he is so underrated. He's so under the radar on a national level, and I think he's gonna have. I mean, the dude took a no-hitter into the 9th, into the last 2 batters. He is so good, and like you say, as he's continuing to the fact that you saw how good he was last year, and he's going to be better this year. I think, I don't think there's a whole lot of teams where you have a real debate about who. I think it's pretty obvious. You got 1, 2. There's a real serious debate with good arguments on both sides about who's the 3 and who's the 4. And it's not this is this 3.5 guy better than this 3.5 guy. Is this 2.5 guy better than this 2.5 guy? And we have that kind of debate on the team. I think I'm almost laughing as I've watched some non-Rays people talk about their projections for the team, and the sort of the disrespect I've seen some people throw at the Rays, pitching staff is just sort of like, it's just amusing to me because it doesn't even like make me mad. I'm just sort of amused because anybody who thinks that this staff is like, not that intimidating, or it's like, well, especially now that I'm Glasnow, it's like, they're just kind of whatever. It's like, well, okay, all right, well, we'll see you in October when we have one of the best rotations in the league. So I'm just sick. I continue to be excited and optimistic about this pitching staff, and I'm just ready to see them all firing on all cylinders. I'm stoked.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I mean, this is nothing against Eflin, but he's probably like, with Glasnow healthy, Eflin's probably like the 5th best starter on this team. He would be the 3rd best on almost every other rotation, like around the league. Like,
oh yeah,
they're insanely deep. Like, it's not just like they have a couple guys. Like, every guy could go out there and give you a 7 shutout performance any given day. Like,
yep.
It's amazing. It's an embarrassment of riches. And speaking of being rich, I know all of our listeners very, very rich, very wealthy. You've got so much disposable income, money to blow. Head on over to shop.rblrsports.com. You probably don't need the promo code because you're rich, but it's fine. You can use it. It's FLAPPY. You get 10% off your order. Buy a bunch of shirts. You make yourself an embarrassingly wealthy person. Flaunt your wealth by wearing 5, 6, 7, 8 shirts at the same time. Those cold Florida summer months are coming up. You gotta get bundled up. You gotta get your layers. Why not get some RBLR sports layers? Get one from each team, and then you'll be prepared for any sporting event or any weather change that life throws at you. So shop.rblrsports.com, 10% off Flappy, FLAPPY. Buy stuff.
Well said. You may have disposable income, but it is not disposing of your income to give it to us because you are getting quality in return.
There we go. Put it on a shirt. Put it in the website tagline. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like an appropriate time to do that. I feel like we kind of talked enough about guys we liked in the spring. So
yeah.
I don't know. Did you have anything else though? I don't want to if you had something really great that you were, dying to talk about, I don't want to cut you off.
Not really. I think we kind of talked about everything I was going to talk about. I was going to briefly mention, I saw a tweet from, I think, Human Lee, if I'm saying his name right, mentioning about how Josh Lowe's making some adjustments to his swing to maybe deal with velocity better. Not really any comment on that, just intrigued to see how that plays out. I would love to see him kind of, because there's been kind of a hole in his game dealing with velocity. So I'm excited to see how that could adjust. It's not really a good or bad necessarily yet. I'm just like, well, that's interesting. I'd like to see how that develops.
Well, no, that's important. I mean, he's definitely showed a lot of progress last season catching up to velo. Looks super confident with his custom bats. Lower hand positioning so far in the spring. I want to talk about him so much, but he's on the opening day roster for me. It's so clear. The confidence, the production. He had an 8-pitch at bat to start the game, and he gets on base with a pretty well hit single against a really strong pitcher in Kevin Gausman. What else do you want to see from him at this point? He's got it going on, so I'm excited about him. But that does kind of lead us into our roster power rankings thing. This is so cool. We got 93 responses, only 2 of them from me, by the way. I'm not stuffing the ballot box here. I'm really trying to be hands off. So I'm really excited to get into this here. I want to share my screen. I think that's appropriate. I just don't know where our faces would go. So, I could try it out, and then if it's not good, we'll just cut this part out, I guess, maybe.
Beautiful.
Okay, I'm getting the green light.
Believe
I'm
yourself.
Randy on a 3-0 count here. So, Randy has a green light in every count, so I guess it really doesn't matter if it's 3-0 or not.
I think he may have a green light whether he does or not.
Yeah, even if he doesn't have a green light, he has a green light.
He has a green light.
Okay. So I went ahead and I shared that screen, and I like that. That looks great. That looks great. Okay. So the title is very long-winded here, but you get the point. Pretty quick response time, 93 responses. I closed it for now, so we wouldn't get changing results right now while we're recording. Maybe that would be fun for a live episode at some point, but not for right now. But yeah, here's a starting pitching power rankings right now. I took off Glasnow. Oh, by the way, I left out Boz, Kittredge, Glasnow, and Colby White, because they're all most like 99% sure all of them are going to be on the IL to start the season. Actually, I'm
Right.
like 100% sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what we got with starting pitching. Any initial thoughts jump out? You want me to, hover over things or?
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at, I think it's interesting. I'm very high on Chirinos. I think you're pretty high on Chirinos as well. It is interesting to see him get the votes over somebody. Somebody put him as their second choice. That's interesting.
Yeah, one person, not me.
One person. But yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense being the fifth guy on the roster right now, because I think he has, I think his floor is a little bit higher than Patino's floor. Unfortunately, we've seen Patino's floor a couple times last year. I love Patino. I think he has a lot of potential, but he can kind of get lost on the mound. I think, his highest spot on there is fourth. And I think that's, I think there will be a day when he is a 2-3 guy. And I think he even has one potential if he can get it together. I think he has that potential, but right now I think Chirinos' floor is higher, so I think it makes a lot of sense to put him there. Otherwise I don't have any qualms with the way that the fan base has made these decisions.
Yeah, no, it looks fine for me. I know before I took off Glasnow, like he was like just barely behind McClanahan in that kind of like 1-2 punch there, but McClanahan's got that strong lead at number one. We've got a nice little grouping here of like Springs, Rasmussen, Eflin a little bit behind those two. But yeah, this spot here is what I'm definitely paying attention to, the Chirinos, Patino, and then kind of Bradley with an outside shot there. I don't think Bradley makes the opening day roster, but this is going to be a nice little battle to watch for. I think one of Chirinos or Patino ends up as like kind of like that fifth starter, maybe a bulk guy, and then the other one could end up in the bullpen. I would take Chirinos over some of the other like bullpen options if it ends up going to that. But Kevin Cash did say that Patino is going to be stretched out as a starter. So I don't see. I think Chirinos has the higher potential to end up as a relief pitcher, so that's why I put him as possible RP. But Patino, they're going to make him a starter, so he's either going to be pitching as a starter in the majors or pitching as a starter in Durham, where I could see like Yanni kind of in like a more of a hybrid role, if that ends up coming down to that.
Yeah, and I think that's, to me, also why he's more likely to make the roster, because he has a lot of versatility. He's been out of the bullpen a lot. He has that ability to do that. I even think there's maybe a world where he piggybacks off of Patino. Like Patino goes 3-4, Chirinos goes 3-4, and you piece it together after that. I think there's a lot of value there. I personally, I value. I think this is, we're splitting hairs here. I have Rasmussen above Springs personally, but that's splitting hairs.
Yeah, I mean the top 5 or 6 guys, as it says on here, like they're probably going to be on the roster. Teams can carry up to 13 pitchers, so if they take 6 of these guys, then that means we've got, doing the math here in my head while I'm scrolling, we've got 7 of these guys that are going to stick around, and the bullpen is a bit more interesting, I think, especially at like the margins here. Like we know Fairbanks is number one, 92% of first place votes. Fairbanks. Adam is probably 1A and 1B with Fairbanks. I like Fairbanks a bit more just because of the demon possessed fastball he has, but Adam he's going to be just as good as Fairbanks, I think, by the end of the year when the dust settles. Cleavinger is kind of roped in with those two, and then there's a bit of a drop off, but I really like Garrett Cleavinger. I think he's the best lefty option, so it kind of makes sense for him to be up at 3. Armstrong he's not injured, but he is injured, but he's probably going to start the season on the opening day roster. Like he's going to start playing catch this weekend. He was shut down a little bit with, I believe, a neck thing, but he should be fine, good to go. Him, Jalen Beeks, and Colin Poche are kind of like in that second tier, and then we get down to like the Kevin Kelly, Ryan Thompson, Trevor Kelly, Calvin Fauche, even though the last two are probably going to either be in Durham or somewhere else if, an injury happens. I don't know. What do you think about the bullpen setup here? Anything you want me to hover over or anything like that?
I think the one that is interesting to me is Ryan Thompson, because he's the only guy who is a significant part of the Rays bullpen who is, according right now is basically projected either off, like first man off, or like last man on situation, depending on how they shake the roster up. And I really, unfortunately, can't really argue with that. I think he has struggled a little bit in recent days. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know what his ceiling is. Like, I don't know if he's really. I think he's got a fun delivery, and he can do some really good things, but the consistency just is not there. Even more so than he's kind of like he's Ryan Thompson is what people say, right? Like Colin Poche is, in my opinion, like the really inconsistent, often has tough outings. I think Poche is a little low on this. I think he's at 6. I would put him above Armstrong and Beeks personally. I think he's a little maligned. I'm a little surprised to see Armstrong at 4, to be honest with you. I think Armstrong has I think he has really good potential, really good stuff. But if I'm just ranking these guys right now, I don't think Armstrong's really done enough to earn, a spot above Beeks and Poche, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think if he came out and had a really bad game in one of the first spring training games or something, I think he might be a little bit lower, but he hasn't really had a chance to shoot himself in the foot or anything yet. So yeah. I think he'll fluctuate a little bit. Ryan Thompson definitely has a pretty wide range of voting outcomes here.
He does.
All the way from, the 1 3rd place vote, I'm not going to think about that too much, or the 10th place vote, but 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, I think it's going to come down to him or Kevin Kelly. I don't really see the Rays rostering both because they kind of do the same thing with their arm slots, kind of like right-handed specialists. That's going to be a nice little battle to watch because I think one of those two makes it. I think that's going to be the last guy on the roster out of the bullpen, and then maybe Chirinos also gets thrown in with them. And it's going to be fluid, but I think this Kevin Kelly, Ryan Thompson thing, assuming nobody above them gets injured, I think that's kind of the battle to watch in the bullpen right now.
Yep, I agree. I don't think I think Fauché, I don't really, I want to love him because he's got some wild stuff, but it's wild right now. I don't see a world where he's on the roster to start the season. I think he's kind of like a break, in case of emergency break glass situation, because unless you really have no other options, I don't think he's really a guy that's, with the quality of the bullpen that we have, I don't think he's really a guy that, is going to be getting a lot of innings unless he makes some really significant improvements during the season, which is possible. It's not impossible. He could figure it out. But right now, I think there's just not really a world in which he's, unless something really bad happens, I don't think there's a world in which he's breaking camp.
No, I don't think so either. He's got a really high upside with his stuff. He's got real major league stuff. I think he'll figure it out someday, but thankfully he doesn't have to figure it out right now. It's true. He's got options. He can hang out in Durham. Trevor Kelly's kind of interesting. He won't, I don't believe he would have options because he signed a minor league deal. So he's either, on the major league roster, maybe. I think he seems like someone who would stick around in AAA just because the Rays, they used 60 players last year, 62 players. He would get a chance to come into the majors and, try to stick. But I think the top 6 pretty solid. And then that 7-8 spot is where to pay attention to here in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's about it. I think that's an exciting battle. This one a little bit more clear, less exciting is the catcher situation.
Yep.
Bethancourt, I'd put him slightly ahead of Mejia. I really like what Mejia is doing with the bat lately. I've got a pretty cool thing coming out with D-Rays Bay relatively soon about Mejia, but those are the 2 top catchers. I like Pinto, really great defensive catcher. He's hit the ball pretty hard this spring. I think he's got one of the higher average exit velos in the 5 batted ball events he's had, but he's putting the good part of the bat on it, so that's good to see. But he's a 3rd catcher. He's not starting on the opening day roster unless there's an injury or crazy trade.
Yep, I agree. I think I've enjoyed seeing Pinto play so well to start spring training, and I want to see more of it. But I completely agree. This is the Bethancourt and Mejia show for sure. And it's been fun seeing Mejia slap it around a little bit to start spring training as well. Yeah, I think it's a pretty straightforward race. I confess I am not even 100% sure who Dini and Collins are. I felt bad when I was doing this. I had to do a little bit of research. I really didn't know who they were when I first saw this list, so I did some research on them. But yeah, I think that the 1-2 is definitely locked in.
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of Pinto and Blake Hunt and
Yes.
God, I forgot. I'm blanking on his first name right now. Roberto Alvarez.
Yeah, Roberto,
just because Bethancourt and Mejia are both going to be in the World Baseball Classic, so like,
correct.
We're going to get a good look at a lot of these guys, but their spots are safe. They're a really good 1-2 catching duo. There's really not much drop off like when either of them is playing. Like I think Bethancourt's the slightly better defender, but Mejia's made some really good strides. Bethancourt better bat, but I think Mejia has the higher ceiling with the bat. So yeah, catching situation's good. I think it's fine. It could have been upgraded, but it's really not a priority.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a situation where that's maybe a spot where if there's an opportunity at the in the trade deadline, maybe they would make an upgrade there, package Bethancourt or Mejia with something else, and do something. But I think there's really no need. There's not any need at the moment. I'm happy with where we're at least to start the season.
Yeah, that's fine. They know the pitching staff well too, so that probably helps.
Yeah, it does.
This gets a little interesting here with the infielders. Top 5 to 6 likely make it because you're going to be carrying 13 pitchers, so most likely they might go with 12 to start the season. I haven't seen exactly how the schedule lines up, but they typically like to kind of share that workload early on and not really force anybody to ramp up too quickly. But it's probably going to be 13 pitchers, so we're going to see 13 position players, DH types, whatever. We got the S tier here with Wander, Yandy, and Bilal. Like that's those guys are on the roster for sure. Paredes a little bit behind, and then we have a nice cluster here of 3 guys. I want to include Mead, but I really don't imagine him. I can't see a world where he starts the opening day roster unless there's an injury or trade. Brujan did get hit on the hand today, but he's fine, by the way. So nothing to worry about there. But I'm really excited about this like 5, 6, 7 spot here with Walls, pretty wide range of outcomes. Aranda pretty similar here, really close, and then Brujan slightly behind those two.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be might be one of the most interesting things to watch this spring training is who's the one who's going to make the step forward. And I think Aranda has the easiest path to making a roster, because I think if he can play league average defense, he's a lock with the way he hits the ball. But if he can't, I think Walls has if he's healthy, I mean, I think he should be fine. As long as he's fine, I think he has a really good shot to make the roster too, because I think there's some upside to his bat that we were seeing a little bit of in streaks last season. I'd love to see that continue to develop. I think he has potential there too. I think Brujan's gonna do we discover that he has an option available?
Yeah.
So I think there's a really good chance that they take advantage of that. I think he kind of. I don't really know what his role is on the team. If you as far as making the roster, unless he makes some really good strides, which I would love to see that. But I think that I think it's really a 2-horse race. If it is a race between Walls and Aranda, my sleeper is the guy at the number 9 spot, Daniel Robertson. I think if for whatever reason Walls is slow getting back from injury, or he's maybe not ready, I think Robertson could kind of fill into that, could really fill that role really well. And I would. My personal agenda is I was a big fan of him when he was with the Rays previously. He had a really cool walk-up song that I really liked that I still listen to this day. So my personal agenda is I'd love to see him back at the Trop. But I think it's probably going to be Walls and Aranda that's going to take those last 2 spots.
Yeah. I think Walls is on there for sure. I know he's got his oblique thing, but he said he's going to be fine for opening day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Aranda or Brujan. Like, do you want the bat or the versatility? But if anything happens to Walls because if something happens to Aranda, Brujan probably makes it there. If something happens to Brujan, Aranda probably makes it. So I guess it kind of comes down to Walls. I do like Robertson as a sleeper there because I would rather have Brujan playing every day in Durham than playing like once or twice a week spot starting at shortstop for Wander or somewhere else on the infield. And Robertson, like he has no more development left to do. He has nothing left to prove in Durham. So if he rides the bench at the major league level and is a decent utility glove who hits in the 8th or 9th spot, like that's fine with me. I'm cool with him being on the roster if Walls can't go. So that's kind of something to watch for. But yeah, I think this Brujan Aranda thing is going to be interesting because, you know, Brujan does have that outfield versatility too. So that's going to make this next group of players also pretty interesting, which is already like, this is one of the bigger, I think, position groups to watch. I know these results are maybe a little bit more clear than some of the other, the groupings we've looked at, but this is going to be interesting in the final. Like there's like one corner outfield spot, like the 4th outfield spot that's available. And we've got like 3 guys, technically 4. I mean, Ben Gamel's kind of an outside shot. I don't see him making it, but Harold Ramirez, I know he's at 6 here, but I think I just want to say like if he's on the roster, like if he's in the organization on opening day, he's on the roster. Like he's not going anywhere because there's really nowhere to put him unless another team really, really wants a below average bat. But I'll bite my tongue there. So he's going to be the right-handed DH type of guy. I know Yandy's going to. Well, Cash said Yandy is the first baseman. So Yandy is not. He's not gonna platoon like he's Yandy Diaz. He's going to play 150 games. So Harold Ramirez is likely not touching first base this season. So it's going to be like corner outfield and DH for him. That's why I included him with the outfielders. Anyways. Randy, clear number 1. Siri, nobody else on this team is playing center field like him. Margot, I know he was a little bit banged up last year, but he's looking better in the spring. He looks like he's more confident, feeling better with his knee. This Josh Lowe, Luke Raley spot this is my favorite spot on the entire roster, and I want both of them to make this roster so bad. This is awesome.
It's kind of tough because Harold Ramirez does kind of put it in a difficult spot. I think I'm a little bit more sympathetic to Harold than you might be, but I can't argue that the upside of Rayleigh and Lowe is higher than Ramirez. So it's a tough spot right now. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. And I think they're aware of it too. Like, I think they're aware of like where, what the roster crunch is. And I think seeing those guys who both want that spot, play their hearts out is going to be really fun to watch. I have a small gripe with Siri being over Margot. And I know Margot was hurt last year, but like, Margot to me is the second best outfielder on this team. I think his bat is better than Siri's. And his defense is not as good as Siri's, but it's also not that far off. His defense is really, really excellent. I think he gets sort of overshadowed because of the bat of Rosarena and the glove of Siri and Kiermaier before him. But I think Margot is super like underrated, undervalued on this team. I think he's a fantastic player to have. And to the fact that we have, I think Randy could probably play center field if he really had to, but that we have like 3 or 4 guys who can walk out there and play above average to elite center field is really cool.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I think I'm pretty sure I put Margot at 2 like most of the time.
I did as well. Yeah.
Like I mean, I know Siri is the center fielder. Like he has no other position to play. He's not even worth DHing. So like, cause his bat, like you can't, like he is batting 9th, playing center field 160 games this season.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, I can see why, like, you would put Siri at number 2 just because like, it's kind of like where else are you going to put him? But yeah, I think Margot is the better overall player. Kind of like with Josh Lowe, I think he's the better, more well-rounded player. But Luke Raley kind of has that pop and the first base versatility. Josh Lowe's got the base running. Luke Raley is faster though. Josh Lowe's got the better arm. But like we said before, like Luke Raley, he's pulling the ball. He's got that hard quality of contact. Josh Lowe is getting there. And I like what I've seen in the spring, but these 2 guys are already off to a crazy good start in the spring, and that makes this so interesting. This is going to be one to watch. I really hope there's no injuries that make this, more clear, but I love a good roster spot battle, and this is a really, really good one to have here. It's going to be a really fun spring.
Yep. And like, it is fun to see like roster battles of really good player versus really good player. Like it's just fun. I think that I think it's just like I know that it's true. It's just funny to me that Rayleigh is faster than Josh Lowe. That's just such a like you would if you were to just look at them, if you just put them in front of your face and you said which of these guys is faster, you would say Josh Lowe. But no, but he's just got he's it's just fun to like Rook Rayleigh is just a fun player all around. Like there's so many things about him that are fun. It's going to be set. Like, I really hope, that these guys stay in the organization for as long as we can keep them there this year. They're just fun.
Absolutely. I might clear the responses or like just kind of like store them somewhere because I kind of want to start fresh for like the next week when we roll this out again. So I mean, I guess we'll see. I just wanted to highlight, I did not vote Luke Rayleigh as the first choice outfielder. That was not me. I've been consistently putting him going back and forth with Josh Lowe, kind of 4 or 5. Sometimes I want to put Josh Lowe higher, but I'll hold myself back from that. But yeah, it's going to be a good battle, and I'm excited to see what these results look like a week from now. So I really appreciate all the engagement we got. That was 100%. Amazing. Let me stop sharing that. So yeah, no, it was super cool. And I'm excited for the next wave of results, a week from now when we have more stuff that happens. I mean, any miscellaneous news or anything before I just wrap it up with like 2 quick injury things I want to touch on?
Don't think so. I would also like to retroactively complain that Brandon Lau was ranked clearly 3rd in the infielders. I mean,
terrible.
Like I just would like to complain about that. Brandon Lau supremacy. But in all seriousness, like those 3 guys are so good. I don't think there's anything else. Trying to think if anything else happened since trying to remember what else happened since the last time we talked.
The Rays minor league like spring training and instructs thing, like they had like a little thing at the Chop for a little bit. But they moved their minor league operation to Orlando, which is cool. So that started Thursday.
Yeah.
So yesterday, but the Disney setup was already like really tough on the major league camp. Like the locker room does not hold like too many guys, and they've got like I think like 100 something minor leaguers in like a 50-person space. So they've got a lot of like tenting they're doing and like impromptu weight room setup. But they're gonna make it work. But man, I do not envy those like clubhouse staff right now, like trying to set up everything and maintain it. Like that's crazy over there in Orlando.
Yeah, it's kind of the nature of it. It's unfortunate the circumstances that created that having to happen. And I have a lot of respect for all the people that are out there making it work. And I have a lot of appreciation for all the people that are involved in the minor leagues of the Rays, because I think the Rays minor league system is really strong. And there are so many people that are a part of making that happen. And, a little round of applause for all the people that, are part of the Rays minor league organization that make it that great.
Yeah, absolutely. So sorry, Eureka. I just saw your comments about hovering over Siri. I'll talk about that in a tweet or something after this. I did it. Okay. I don't remember if I did it. He got a good share of the votes, like near the top, but yeah, anyways, we talked about the Glasnow stuff. It doesn't really change his work. It changes his timeline, but not really his workload this season. Walls, we said oblique thing. He expects to be ready for the start of the season. Fauché also have a oblique thing. He's playing catch now at like 120 feet. He expects himself to be ready. Armstrong could be a little interesting. He's starting to play catch this weekend with a neck thing. Yandy, he's been out for a couple days. Hip flexor thing, not serious at all. Just making sure he doesn't, linger with that. So injury stuff is so far so good. Like aside from Glasnow and maybe Armstrong is a bit of a question mark, but the Rays have depth. Not an ideal situation for anybody to be hurt, but no major concerns there.
Yep, and I think that's my main thing that I'm starting to get excited for is the WBC. I'm excited to see all the Rays that are going to be playing the WBC. I believe it's going to start before our next podcast, so that'll be exciting.
I think it starts like Monday or Tuesday next week.
Yeah, so that'll be exciting. I'm really excited to see Randy and Wander play in particular. I'm excited to see. I'm also really excited to see Jason Adam. I'm really glad he's on Team USA. I'm very excited to see him pitch. I would love to see him, like if the USA wins, to have him close out the last game. That's like like, that would be really fun.
Yeah, I think it's cool that we got like Randy, Aranda, Paredes all on Mexico. I think that could be a fun
sleeper.
Team.
That's a sleeper team.
They're
not a lot
a
of people. Yeah, not a lot of people are like betting on them. They got some firepower on that team. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
There's so many good teams this year. I think this is gonna be a really good WBC. I'm super jazzed.
Definitely. I'm super excited about it. And we'll definitely keep touching on it like kind of near the end of our podcast here each week. But thank you all so much for listening. I know this was a little bit longer, but we had some good stuff. I'm excited for all the rolling content we're putting out here. So, follow, share us at RBLR Sports, share us, watch us on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, Spotify, 5-star stuff, Apple podcast reviews, do all of that. And thank you so much for your support.
Raise up.
Raise up.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.